Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with our first semi-finalist, the rank 1 Terran player in the world. The Protoss in the blue, it's Team Liquid's Clem. Facing off against the rank 2 non-Clem Terran in the red, we have Micro Jackson ByuN in a best of 5 Terran versus Protoss semi-finals to the newest iteration of the Pigosaur Cup tournament. And before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. And Jimmy, 1,830 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As our first and only biracial player in StarCraft 2 is once again showcasing his talents and his preferences. A man of the people. And most importantly himself, arguably the most important person. As many moons ago, almost 2 years, he did what so many people in the comments and the forums on the ladder have threatened in the past, but not been able to pull off. He said, well, TVT is just not going well for me. So he just switched to Protoss. And here we are, with Clem as arguably the best Protoss versus Terran player in the world, statistically, mostly because he doesn't have to play against Clem. Which, we don't have the technology yet to make him play against himself. So, here we are. ByuN, well, sticking with his guns, quite literally. 3 racks. He got concussive shell first, but the adept was so incredibly well-timed, Clem got in. He delayed the command center ever so slightly, and it looks like the pro pushed it a little bit out of position, but of course Terran buildings can fly somehow. And gets out while seeing... Now, the fact that he saw a Marauder with concussive shell already gives away that this is likely a bio build. Also, the fact that his name is ByuN likely gives away that this is also a bio build. ByuN, Clem's metaphorical father, so clearly inspiring at least an earlier Clem who also relied almost entirely on near-perfect Marine Marauder micro to win an inordinate amount of games. He's branched out, diversified a bit. I'm not just talking playing Protoss a high percentage of the time, but originally, pretty much copy-pasting ByuN's builds was Clem's strategy. ByuN has been copy-pasting those builds for over half his lifetime, so it's not surprising to see just the battering ram style of Terran. We got Stim, we got +1, not even combat shield here. Just a bio ball that comes rolling across the map, and you're kind of tied to the tracks, and the freight train's coming. Are you going to be able to derail it, slow it down? As the sheer power of even a small amount of bio units usually outstrips the fancy Protoss with their shields and laser swords, simply because of the amount of damage they're able to put out quickly. But Clem, literally no one is more qualified to recognize the potential dangers and mitigate them. So whatever response he has to what ByuN is doing is probably, almost certainly, the best one. Though it might also be reliant on his world-class micro, especially with blink stalkers. But the response here, the fact that there's so many Marines back at home, the fact the starport is now on the way, Clem looks at all this and finally takes a third. Usually you take the third base either as you start warping in, like after the first warp in of stalkers, or you do a blink timing. But because ByuN has such a aggressive potential, he delayed the third base until after getting a robotics bay, and has already started charge in the Twilight Council, making sure he has enough units to deal with. ByuN does not have medevacs for a while yet, which means every stim is permanent damage, both emotionally and physically. And he cannot recover for it for, well, really until the medevacs come out, making it much easier for the stalkers to pick off the Marines one by one. But by no means easy to actually deal with all these units if they come across the map. +1 is finished. Combat shield in 5 seconds. ByuN trying to hit this timing as hard as possible. And a Guardian shield is used, reducing all the range damage within the shield by 2, which is everything the Terran does. That's right up until the sentry gets targeted down immediately. But the stalkers are blinking back. Great micro, of course, so far from Clem. Minimizing the potential, but eventually ByuN Terran through. He will kill every single stalker right as the Colossus shows up, and he loses all of his units. Clem trading exactly right to minimize the potential of this attack getting his third base right on time, apparently. And ByuN didn't want to wait for the medevacs because, of course, something like a Colossus, even if it doesn't have its thermal lances as extended as mine, at least quite yet, it is more than an existential threat. It's suicidal to attack into a Colossus with already pre-stimmed bio and no medevacs. And ByuN isn't quite there yet. And now, of course, he's going to drop the base. The natural, wide open. The Stalkers already removed from the field. He's warped in some more, but they're relatively cost effective. You do need them, though. So, I guess you can't put a price on that. One medevac almost taken down. Notably, Clem, no upgrades. He does have a forge just now starting, but he's prioritized that unit composition over getting the basic unit upgrades, as making sure he has the Colossi against the Bio Ball in order to stem the tide of Terrans coming across the map has been by far the priority. So far, Clem boxing out ByuN about as perfectly as possible. But it's not like ByuN made a big mistake there. It was a strategic choice to go for the bio. Clem just prepared for it perfectly, and his third base will be fully intact in mining. Now, very notably, ByuN did get a third command center. It's now floating over. He's not too far behind on SCVs, as Clem has paused probe production, including right now, multiple times, in order to make sure he has the units. The Colossi continuing production, plus 1 ground weapons, and ByuN, maybe a little begrudgingly, but has chosen to continue into the mid-game. He's got an armory and a second engineering bay on the way. Ship weapons as well as those +2 upgrades. Might be something to maintain a lead. Meanwhile, Clem, he knows the map is dark and full of Terrans. He's lighting it up, making sure he keeps tabs on everything. This is the Clem action cam, so yeah, try to keep up. A fake, a hallucinated warp prism, or to try to draw some of the units out of position. And yeah, it's not just Terran, it's just Clem when it comes to the speed. And you can really feel it when he finally gets the army that has a few more tools to utilize out on the field. The hallucinated prism is working perfectly. Oh, wow. He called it's a fake. He would have dropped something out. He's like, he would have dropped something. He doesn't believe him. There was no missile turret. He just correctly gambled that it was a fake. Though now thinking maybe a real warp prism will be a threat eventually. Wow, a Stargate already. Clem has played against Hero so many times, in so many frustrating ways, that he knows exactly what Terrans are vulnerable to in the late game. And whenever we see Hero lose to Clem, it's because he's repeatedly running melee units into a wall of planetary fortresses and liberators. The only time I've seen Hero really, and sometimes that works, all right? You ram enough zealots into the wall and sometimes it breaks down, but Clem not willing to go that route. He's a bit more, meticulous than it sometimes seems with Hero. And double Ruptor, he already has the Stargate to potentially go. Well, one, this map has the nasty Liberator position that is almost untouchable, if not untouchable, which Clem, of course, has used and abused in the past. So just having the Stargate at all to potentially deny both Liberators and drops, don't even need a fleet beacon. But just having it and not needing it is better than needing it and not having it. Like and subscribe for more mantelpiece wisdom. The Disruptors, the Danger Balls in production. Very notably, no Templar of any flavor. No attempt at Storm. No Dark Templar, though we're a little early on to use them as more of a late-game backstabbing option. A third robotics facility is in production. The Mass Disruptor mixed in with the Colossi. ByuN has actually gone for 5 siege tanks, adding them in after the initial phase. Sometimes the factory itself is just abandoned entirely, which I believe he's done now, but wait, where is the factory? Yep. Your watch has ended. Well, or begun, depending on which. A Shrine to Dark, as Clem is maxed out and starting to fill out the tech tree. Sure, he might be younger than Prima strategy guides, but the idea stands. We're going to check it all off. No Templar archives, no fleet beacon, but he's getting gravitic drive for warp prism speed. He's how many Nexi now? It's 5, 6 on the way. The gateway count is going into the double digits. He's already got 3 robotics facilities. The siege tanks will ward away some less committed incursions. There are 8 Vikings above, notably no Liberators, though he just spotted the Disruptors, so the best, or at least most reliable counter to Disruptors is Mass Liberator, as Disruptors do not hit air, nor can they get close enough, especially with extended thermal lance, but there's a fusion core on the way, as both sides working on that late game tech. Seriously doubt we're going to see battle cruisers, but there's always a chance. And, well, if you could somehow magically get 12 battle cruisers without Clem noticing, wouldn't that be great? But that's just not how anything works. Clem working around the edges, and if ByuN makes even a single mistake, Clem will just completely smash the army and probably take the game with it. Thing is, though, if he tries to attack into a prepared position, as he knows better than, again, anyone, it's very easy for the Terran army to just take big bites out of the Protoss, and much the way Protoss never can. A single ghost will be hit by a single disruptor shot, but he wards away the rest. The disruptor's the most dangerous force field. And now ByuN moving out. Smaller groups of units across the field. Clem at 84 probes. A high number, but not so high as army supply. Oh, the Zealots pull back at the last second. A very tough working relationship with the Disruptors, who can literally destroy them in one shot. So, meanwhile, the Bio getting into the midst. EMPs the Nexus to prevent a recall. Wipes everything out. Just feeding the Zealots. Not even going for the pylon. He'd rather just take the freebies here. Scans the army moving across the map, but ByuN picks up and he gets out. Or does he? He's getting chased down. A bit of a commitment here. Right on top of the cannons. Blank is coming off cooldown. And how many will actually make it to the main? Down goes 1. Down goes 2. Make that 3. Oh, no. It's a disaster. 3 medevacs dead in 1 half fight of Phoenix. The 4th one will be confirmed. And there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to run. Fly, you. He just accepts his fate. Clem just completely shuts that down. ByuN is on 4 bases. Clem is on 9. Which is more. You're welcome. 4 Liberators at a time. Now we see what Clem's take on the extreme late game is. We know he is incredibly competent at the Terran side of this. And he's had plenty of opportunities to maybe theory craft 0 for 2 on the Ruptors. Shack at the free throw line there, but another one, make that 0 for 3. The Disruptors existing and firing off their shots in the midst is a big part of the value of this army, though. Yes, it'd be great if they hit, but their existence keeps ByuN from really being able to jump on him with that bio army and just crush, especially if the Colossi are toppled. Then the bio can just clean everything up if you don't have the splash damage. Meanwhile, moving around, there's now 14 gateways. Disruptor shot, finds a connection, blinks in, shoves away, but the Vikings get a great angle to knock down the Colossi. They get both of them. A little bit of return fire. High-sec auto tracking and building armor now on the way. As Clem, still, this looking be unbreakable right now. The Venn diagram of freedom with the Liberators covering each other. No advanced ballistics yet, but it's seconds away. Liberator range makes it harder and harder for the Stalkers to do anything unless you're able to catch them completely out of position, but goes in between a rock and a hard place right now is Clem, but still flinging out the disruptor shots. That was all of them, though. If ByuN recognizes this, he has a few seconds to maybe just go for it. He has plenty of medevacs. Caduceus Reactor is done for the double medevac energy regen. But of course, ByuN doesn't know exactly how much he's double planetary. But the DTs just blink by. Yep, those are DTs. Forces a cancel on yet another command center. There's 5 orbital commands, which is not enough to just constantly scan the entire map. But he's working his way there. ByuN is maxed out. Clem, of course. He's now got 10 Nexi to 4.5 mining bases. Knocks down another. Kills his own Zealot, but wards away the Bio Army. Another Ruptor getting some pot shots from the Liberators on the way across. Disruptors, well, the gang of Dark Templar continuing to slink around and keep ByuN from really being able to commit and recalls a chunk of the army over to the left side. Double planetary here in quite a rough angle with an orbital to help choke things off. The mass DT over to the right, the EMPs with the mark. They can also reveal the Dark Templar. Disruptor shot misses, and here we go. We're all over the place. Disruptors flog out, but the Marauders chunking through them, popping them like overripe tomatoes. He gets 3 more Ruptors, more shots, but the fadeaway shots are not enough to chase. And Clem just getting... Over the last minute and a half, ByuN has destroyed 6,000 minerals and 3,000 gas. 7 Ruptors, 5 Dark Templar. He's lost some Liberators and Siege Tanks, though. Clem is mining 3,500 minerals and 1,300 gas a minute. And he's keeping his probe count right around 80, which leaves him with enough army supply to compete with ByuN. But ByuN is eventually going to be getting this 5th base. And now we try to figure out whether Terran is so cost-effective they can play on literally half the bases. Or, well, 1984, am I right? But Clem is not letting ByuN get out of his base. And right now, 4,000 resource disparity. ByuN has been more cost-effective, but not nearly enough so to justify this position. The mass disruptor and gateway units. Clem choosing some of the most microable army compositions, of course, but the EMPs wash over everything. Disruptor shot spitefully around the corner. The Dark Templar, he hasn't lost too many of them throughout this. He's just working his way through. Can blink right on top, gets the missile turret immediately. ByuN, either caught without a skin, well, he doesn't have the units there at all. A Colossus out of the middle of the field. Destroys another command center before it can be canceled. A lot of the bios chasing down the Dark Templar. Clem has been mining from both rich Vespene bases, by the way. Not that... So, it doesn't have more gas, it just mines it twice as fast. So it's actually just 2 gas geysers there. It's just a huge boost in income. Meanwhile, Clem just continues working around the corner. Disruptor... Ooh, a dangerous game when you hotkey disruptors too early. The EMP on all the Dark Templar. Many of them already badly bruised and cannot be healed unless the medevacs are feeling overly generous today. And ByuN trying to collapse on this army. It is still 14 gateways for Clem, which is not low, but he's constantly keeping his army at 200 supply. He's playing the Protoss equivalent of the 300 supply Zerg, where you lose just a chunk of your army and refill it, ideally before the Terran can do the same, even if they lost less, as Terran cannot warp in units, much to their dismay. The army has 36 Stalkers and 7 Disruptors. ByuN now has these 5 bases, but Clem certainly isn't letting him sit back. The DTs are constantly working their way in. 1 survives the gauntlet and is slicing through even more of the SCVs. A single warp prism blinks past his Disruptors. Another one around the corner. Gonna take out one of the Liberators, make that 2. There's still Vikings overhead, but they're slowly and surely being picked off. This Dark Templar with 12 kills. Unfortunate positioning there. Wait, is it gonna... No. Wait, what? Ow. Come on. Zeratul will survive multiple scans, multiple missile turrets, and keeps ByuN busy for long enough to shove into the right side of the northern base. Clem now 10 Nexi mining against 5 bases. Though let's not pretend that 2 or 3 of those bases still have any minerals left. The main and the natural are completely dried up. The 3rd base might have a little bit of gas for both sides left. The Stalkers, the physical girth of this army is impressive. But the Disruptors try to get the hits. He just gets right on top, popping almost all the Disruptors, and Stalkers are nothing compared to the Bio army. ByuN just tearing through once again. Another brutal exchange. In 20 seconds, almost 5,000, over 5,000 resources being destroyed. ByuN getting 7 Ruptors, and it cost him a couple of Liberators and Medevacs, but mostly just Bio. I'm not even sure taking down these rocks is advantageous for ByuN, but he seems to think so. His army, 7 Ghost, 18 Marauders. Bit of a mixed bag. So far, Clem, the resource disparity starting to tilt a little bit more towards ByuN. But Clem has mined 12,000 more minerals, only 2,000 more gas. So... And he hasn't added a fleet beacon. He hasn't bothered with High Templar, which shows you his opinion of the unit. Plus 3 shields about to complete. But a Warp Prism made it into the main. Clem is suffering from success, though. He's at 200 supply. He can't warp in anymore, but he goes forward. Gets on top of the Liberators. Disruptor gets a chunk, softens up the Marauders. Single Colossus in the mix, but the Marauders are just bullying the Stalkers out of position. Oh no, the Colossus takes the wrong path, but that frees up some supply for Warpins. Unfortunately, Liberation is at hand. There's far too many Liberators right now. As ByuN around the corner, chasing everything down. He has 10 Liberators, and now is chasing the army itself. Down goes another Colossus. The last one can be toppled that easily. Scans over the top, and the momentum is shifting towards the Terrans. With double-digit Liberators, 200 supply, 144 army of Marines and Marauders. Clem is building 4 Colossi at a time. But the action will not stop, and it cannot stop. As Clem comes in again, the Disruptors are around the corner. The Marauders, he's warping in another round. He can't get to the pylon quite in time. There's still a Colossus with the army. Pops a Ruptor. Blade Stalkers around the corner. Here come the Liberators. EMPs on most of it. The shield upgrades do nothing. Meanwhile, the Colossi is stepping up to the plate. But will they be knocked down? Will they be able to hit a home run? The Liberators still sieging up around the corner. The action continues. Liberators on the choke point. Picks off 1, but the Colossi are stranded, and 2 go down just that quickly. The reinforcing pylon isn't up for now, but he's right on top of everything. Here come the Vikings again. He has plus 3-1. 3 Colossi, though. 1 of them barely standing. 3 more at near full HP, but the Nexus falls, and ByuN is now mining from the 12 o'clock position. Clem's native Terran seeming to be too much for him to deal with, and has ByuN actually done it? He's now 17,000. That's more than a full base of resources ahead. But the Stalkers, Colossi around the corner. Viking count has been drawn down to nothing. He's rebuilding. Just finished a few more, but there are 4 Colossi with maximum upgrades. And ByuN, he manages to get a planetary. Clem has not noticed this base. Literally the only unchecked base that Clem has not mined from this whole game. I'm not even sure. Clem might have had a Nexus up there at some point, but the base, the gas was mined out a while ago. The Stalkers looking for the planetaries, but the times of plenty have ended. Sure, the battles might be fought with Liberators and Colossi and Dark Templar, but the final battles might be fought with Zealots and Marines if we keep going down this road. The Disruptors onto the SCVs will hit the planetary as well. The planetary, no! Oh no! The oldest mistake. Committing to the planetary and getting obliterated in the process. He recalls to the other side of the map to try to escape the fight, but loses multiple Colossi, and now trapped in a prison of his own design. Or is he? The Disruptor. Ooh, the Disruptor shot the double barrel in the corner. The first planetary will hold, but have we had second planetary? The backup planetary, and now the recall is on cooldown. He's got another army split off in the top right. ByuN is starting to draw low on supply, though. He only has 1 fresh mining base, and that's on borrowed time if Clem actually realizes it. The thing is, Clem, a Liberator has denied mining in the bottom left corner. Clem continues forward. 3 Colossi left, but it's enough to incinerate the bio army that tries to challenge him. Meanwhile, no, they're still fighting. We're still going. Over the last 90 seconds, through all the fire and fury, ByuN has destroyed 8,000 minerals and 1,200 gas to 6K, 1,500, 130 blinks, 6 disruptor shots. He just stims forward right on top of anything and everything. The Liberators will siege up. There's no disruptors in the mix here. Doesn't take out any Colossi, but 2 still very badly bruised. Clem just stepping up 4 more Colossi. A new suite of challengers approach, and that's just too many. Not even the Marauders can withstand that much concentrated fire. The thermal lances are fully extended. He's trying to dive on the Colossi, but he's being cauterized in the process. ByuN, the supplies on both sides plummeting. But Clem he still has more mining, right? Yes. we see the Mule Peak in the Great Valley of Protoss income advantage. 65,000 to 48,000 resources lost. Clem throwing absolutely everything at ByuN, and ByuN withstanding it for now. He has survived. There's still 5 Colossi. Hundreds upon hundreds of units thrown into the fray. The Liberator finds another opportunity. The Viking count has regrouped. And +3 Vikings alongside +3 Liberators. Those Colossi tumbling quickly. But is it quickly enough? The Vikings can be targeted. More Colossi. And, wow, the Vikings going down so quick. The sheer number of Colossi is too damn high. The army supply is still nearly even. Clem has still not scouted the base to the 12 o'clock. But now, I was going to say we finally have a lull in the action, but no! He walked down a ramp into a Venn diagram of freedom yet again. And he's down to 2 Colossi, which barely even inconveniences the Marauders. 6, maybe. 2, absolutely not. And both players barely staying above 100 supply. Treading water here on Winter Madness to start off the series. What? And he finds a Dark Templar shows up. He realizes this base has been mining and Clem needs to do something about it yesterday. That has been the lifeline, keeping ByuN in this game. And it might be enough to actually turn it around and put all the pressure on. Well, it puts the pressure on Clem. He knows he has to deal with this base. The planetary fortress, here comes everything. The repair is, well, he blinks right on top. He should be able to power through. A bit of a base trade, of course. And the last real mining base for ByuN. He's down to 3 orbital commands as well, making Dark Templar even more of a threat. The army supply is still in favor of the Terran. Clem has used the majority of the map. He's mined 20,000 more minerals, 5,000 more gas. He's lost 15 and 4,000 more. 20 Colossi, 20 Disruptors, 55 pies, 55 burgers, 55 chances, and another planetary falls as ByuN. Well, the income's running thin, but Clem still has just enough. He still has that top right corner. He still has a surprising amount of mineral patches throughout because he had more bases that he could actually efficiently mine from. Because if he built the probes to mine from all those bases, he'd have no army, and he would have been run over a while ago. But the army supplies are still dead even. But ByuN's income is almost even as well, at 0. He's long-distance mining from a handful of mineral patches. He knocks out all the bases on the Western Front. But Clem has survived. It looked like he had all the initiative. But despite his experience with such a powerful Terran composition, still struggling to break it. The starport units, though, have been reduced to critically low levels. That's 5 Colossi against 0 Vikings. That could be an absolute disaster. Dark Templar mixed in. 5 Colossi stepping forward. And we're gonna battle in the middle of the field. Possibly to end it all. He's trying to chase. Marauders moving forward, trying to topple the Colossi. They do so quickly. But the force fields at the 11th hour, the 30th minute, and the Marauders are incinerated. There's still a Phoenix mixed into all this, and there's very little anti-air. And GG! After nearly half an hour, and everything thrown into the meat grinder, Clem withstands and overcomes. The Clempire too strong for ByuN, but it was a close thing. 169 zealots. Over 140,000 resources lost. Almost every single one of them they could put onto the field, thrown into the fray. And Clem is the one left. He survives game number 1. And, well, I was wondering if we'd see the transition into the Tempest or the Templar, the less temporary units, somewhat ironically, but Clem just leaned on the gateway units and the weapons of mass production with the robotics facility. And in the end, it was enough. Was it a comfortable victory? No, but it was exciting. Dramatic. And even though neither player, I think, would prefer that, I think we did. So, quite a game to start things off. It didn't really feel... Maybe a few moments where Clem overstepped, but he was able to warp in so much to reinforce so quickly, which, you know, when you have, what, 4 robotics facilities and at least 14 gates, he may have added more by the end, but... Getting the star gate just for, I think, just one Phoenix the entire game. But that Phoenix was incredibly important for shutting down the drops and denying Liberators. The fact that Warp Prisms, I think there was one actual Warp Prism the entire game. There was the hallucinated one that ByuN just kind of ignored. Rightfully so. He got one Warp in the main. That's usually the tool that's used to undercut. But ByuN was not very ambitious with his expansions. He knows he sticks his neck out, the Frenchman might just guillotine it off. So, one by one, taking new bases and forcing Clem to fight into them. It's quite an SCV just being stuck in the middle. How does it feel, Clem? The probe? Not exactly hyped about that. It's technically a bug, but Terrans might call it a feature, where the SCV sometimes just builds in the very center, like it's doing a drone cosplay for a while, making it impossible to even laser tongue with your probes, which is offensive to everyone. Not a game. I'd say, well, how do you follow that up? But especially ByuN. I've seen ByuN just play 30 to 45 minute games like 5 times in a row. He just plays StarCraft all day. Sure, if he wins on the first bio push, I'm sure he'll be happy about that, but he's more than willing to play the better part of an hour. So I don't think he's going to get tired or tilted. He just seems to always be on that even keel, whereas Clem, definitely, like, a not insignificant percentage of why he plays Protoss against Terran is simply out of spite. Now, I don't think he'd characterize it like that, and maybe I shouldn't. But it really feels like well, I'm just sick of playing TVT, and Protoss is so good, it's just easier. And that he put his prize money where his mouth was. Somewhat ironically, as Protoss don't have mouths, but I have no balance one. He has been quite vocal about how it feels like Terran has no options but to sit there and turtle past a certain point in the game. Like, either you get a ton of damage done with the early timings, usually before much splash damage is out, or you just sit in your base with an incredibly cost-effective army, and you try to outlast the Protoss. Much like exactly what ByuN did last game. And it still almost worked. What a game, though. I feel like at multiple points I try to do the caster thing of like recapping what's happened so far and like where we're going, but it was kind of just the same thing for 20 minutes straight. Clem mass-producing gateway and robo units and trying to batter in ByuN's doors while ByuN desperately held them, right up until essentially they mined out. Clem had 1 or 2 mining bases and ByuN had barely 1. But now we're going to do something a little bit spicier to start. He's using a Whittle Mine up, and it does drop out. He might be able to delay Blink. So, oh wait, no, there's a second pylon. The tasteless pylon backs up the Artosis one there. Blink is done now. And ByuN will... Okay, well, if he had delayed Blink slightly off that pylon, it would have been marginally better. He got the medevac out, which is, of all the units, the most important one. But losing everything else, it forces the issue somewhat. He confirms it's Blink, more than likely. Do you see the third base timing? No, actually. The medevac didn't spot the third base on the way out. A Raven to follow it up. But, huh. Robo Bay with charge on the way, and a Forge a little bit quicker this time. The fact we saw +3 shields. Sometimes, no matter how long the game goes on, because the shield upgrades are more expensive, the argument is because they cover everything. Shield upgrades not only work for your ground units, they work for Stargate units and your buildings, which is why they're a little bit more costly. But they work in the same way as armor. And they are split. That's the important point. And that's why armor is usually the priority. Because an EMP will negate all those upgrades. It does nothing to block their effectiveness. And things like Zealots have more HP than they have shields. So. But ByuN's moving out with his tank push. The Blink Stalker's here to sandbag this as much as possible. Minimize the danger as he gets closer. The tank, he didn't bring any SCVs. And that means the tanks cannot be repaired. Though moving forward, loses one of the Stalkers. Sieges up a little bit outside the base. Charge, nearly completed. He definitely needs charge to deal with this. There's a Raven. He's gonna slap down triple auto turret. Just wards away the Stalker itself. Meanwhile, spots the army. Gonna use this opportunity to move into position. The tanks will take their sweet time sieging. There's a Marauder jammed in. A Colossus is done. Just in time. What a fortuitous timing yet again. The Colossus moves up, target fires the Marines in every sense of the term. But it's not enough. That tank tucked around the corner. Looks like ByuN not willing to overstay his welcome. And of course, Terrans rarely welcome anywhere. But he managed to trade well in that fight. At least as well as could be expected, considering Clem now had a Colossus out. Charge done. Either one of those is usually enough to deal with the tank push. Both is sometimes overkill. But the positioning was so good that ByuN was able to survive and take a decent trade in the engagement. But now, third command center's finishing up. Clem looking at a fourth Nexus at the same time. We've already seen how important it is to have an economic lead against the Terrans. Observer, vengefully taken out. Some Spylons thrown down by Clem. Another reactor in Tech Lab. He's going to have 3 Tech Labs, 2 reactors on those barracks. And Mass Marauder / Ghost may very well be in his future yet again. The Raven did survive. The auto turret's keeping the Stalkers off its back until it could come back home. Being able to deny observers more reliably is a pretty big part of the early mid-game. Clem with the Colossi. Extended Thermal Lance still pretty far off. I think he delayed it to make sure he had enough units out. But with multiple siege tanks, in fact, wow, coming in anti-armor missile. But he needs to get close enough. Well, the Vikings certainly close enough. There's not that many Stalkers to back him up. The Raven just wanders in and gets Edgar Allan Poe, but the Marauders try to chase down again. Clem, Guardian Shield helping out. Picks off another Viking with the Stalkers. Make that 2. And the charge lot's coming up. And these two just brawling across the field yet again. ByuN losing every single one of his Vikings to Clem's snappy Blink Stalkers. Nine gates. Just one robo for now. I'd imagine... those are rookie numbers. You gotta pump those numbers up. Focusing a lot of... There's the second robo. Another gateway as well. It's gonna be a similar mass production style, where you use the robo units to make sure the bio ball can't just crush all your gateway units. Meanwhile, ByuN settling into a more defensive stance yet again. Extended Thermal Lance now done for those Colossi. Stalkers just blunk forward. Charge lots chew through a couple siege tanks. And +2 weapons complete. So a little bit after the fight awkwardly, but Clem saw an opportunity to move forward and he takes it. And biting off the siege tanks is certainly helpful and makes it even more likely he'll come in again and find success. And here we go. Refill some of the zealots. They're trickling across the map. You can see on the mini-map as well. The Vikings. The Observer was almost implied with the way Clem was so confidently moving forward. ByuN's like, uh-huh. How did... All right. Ghost Academy is on the way. And a bit of a split here. He swings over to the left side. The sensor tower gives a moment of warning. The Stalkers... he wants that sensor tower. He'll get it. Some shift flanking back. And a Dark Shrine again. With a Disruptor in production. The double Ds of destruction. The Dark Templar and Disruptors. The DTs were a minor part of the previous game, but they did a lot to keep ByuN busy when he was threatening that sort of 200 supply army that's so hard for Protoss to beat. And we're hurtling towards a similar scenario. As ByuN is trying to get his 4th base. Clem, he's got 5, going on 6, and even 7, if he would. Make that 8, sure. He takes the entire half the map. And both corners. Well, some halves are more equal than others, but... Clem actually has an upgrade advantage here compared to ByuN's 1-1. 2-1 upgrades completed, but 2-2 soon on the way for ByuN. Not as relevant as the unit composition itself. Disruptor shot now revealed. A Colossus. Got to be careful not to step on a Lego on the way back home. 2 HP. Will be reshielded. Meanwhile, some charge lots, but a wall of barracks, making it difficult for the charge lots to find anything useful. Two upgrades. ByuN about to complete 15 seconds away. Clem going forward. What are the ship weapons? +1, just started +2. But this is about to be the worst possible timing for Clem to move in. Disruptor shot around the corner. Vikings just slapped down a Colossus. He's trying to split his army, but it is a dangerous game against a concentrated Terran one, as neither of these armies is strong enough to engage the Terran on the open field. He's using the terrain, working around the corners. But if ByuN picks off the Colossi, there's more than enough Marauders in order to collapse on the rest. The Disruptors flings out a shot. Actually, a big chunk of the Marauders take it out before they can heal off their stims. A double shot takes out the tanks. And the Planetary under siege, despite the siege tanks behind. The Vikings might find an angle here, though. Wander into the Colossi. The Stalkers blink forward to ward them away. A troop of charge lots to the north. A fusion core now in production. As once again we go into the supreme late game. Clem dragging the army away. Fadeaway shots down the center. Forces him to split. Parts the Red Sea. Meanwhile, the charge lots trickling through the knot wall at the front. The EMPs come out, but that's not enough to stop them. ByuN has to move back, but he knows the army is knocking on his door. And this is the kind of situation that can result in disaster for the Terrans. Clem trying to force the issue, trying to pry the defenses open, allowing him to break through. But ByuN split off just enough without overcommitting. Now all those sort of top-tier stretch goal upgrades are in production. We've got Warp Prism Speed, DT Blink on the way, as ByuN moves over for a potential 5th base. He just finished the Fusion Core. He has nothing in the bank compared to Clem's 32 Zealots. There's 14 gateways, 4 robos. That's the number. Jot that down somewhere. Double Ruptor production, but only because he's maxed out. He could build more. Just chooses not to. 90 probes. 110 army supply. He's filled it all up. Ooh, a couple more Marauders blasted. Hallucinated Prism. Meanwhile, the Stalkers just obliterate the command center at the 9 o'clock. ByuN's back down to 4. Gonna build a few more. Hasn't built a single Liberator yet. So far, Clem has only lost 1,000 more resources, which, you know, is kind of the efficiency he wants to keep. Meanwhile, flings out a volley of Disruptor shots, forces to cancel one of the ambitious command centers up front. Some of the Marauders taking the wrong path. As they wander their way around, another volley of Disruptors almost kills a siege tank at the mineral line. 3 more CCs. A Venn diagram of scans will reveal anything coming nearby. 5 orbital commands. The Liberator production has begun. 5,000 minerals, 2,600 gas in the bank, and yet another command center. ByuN picks him up. Clem knocks him down. That's 2. Meanwhile, chasing some of the army, and ByuN starting to get a little more desperate on the field. Trying to force the issue against a Clem. Oh, he finds the army, though. Clem thought the map was his domain, but it appears ByuN bought that a few years ago. Could have executed that joke better, but... Zombo.com. 5 ghosts and advanced ballistics on the way as we transition very quickly into the late game. The Colossi and a bunch of Stalkers are caught. A costly fight for Clem, but he can afford it, at least for now. Loses the base in the top left corner. But the sheer mass of 34 Stalkers, and a trickle of Zealots coming in, but ByuN not willing to give up the field. There's only 2 Disruptors. And he's looking for a shot, finds it, pops 1, goes for the second. That one lands. Another Disruptor comes up, finds a solid chunk. Is it enough? Will he drop the Vikings down? He's been loath to drop the Vikings throughout. The command center just giving up the position in general. And anticipating exactly what's about to happen. ByuN over the last minute has been obscenely cost effective. But can he save this command center? No building armor. He wards away. And that's 3 for 3. ByuN keeps trying to take the 9 o'clock base. And Clem keeps saying it's too late for that. 1 Liberator. Fadeaway blink. And this time around, ByuN. The map itself lending its definitely better for Clem's attrition-based playstyle, making it so difficult for ByuN to move past these 4 bases. He simply can't maneuver. Another double barrel, double kill on the ghosts, a fade away. The Vikings, and now the wall of barracks will be eviscerated by the charge lots. A single Marauder gonna draw their attention away. He's expanded to the 6 o'clock, which has not yet been spotted by Clem. Another scenario where he might be able to mine a little bit quicker. The Stalkers, but he fires off the Disruptors, covering them with the Stalkers. Another shot gets the center mass. And there's really not that much army supply here for Clem. He warps in another cinematic of Stalkers. 14 Stalkers, 28 supply at a time alongside 2 Colossi in production. And he still has money in the bank, though not as comfortable as he once was. ByuN, on the other hand, can't even max out, so I guess the same is true. Another base. Clem still not spotting the 6 o'clock. A planetary's nearly completed. He's anticipating it, though. Moving a bunch of Stalkers down. Will almost incidentally scout it. Just gonna fight it with no defenses. It will go down, even though he loses a few Zealots in the process. Again, another army. ByuN splitting his options, hoping at least one of them can survive the Stalkers, but advanced ballistics makes it so difficult to actually siege this up. Thing is, Clem has armies on 3 different prongs. The tuning fork Protoss. Tuning forks have 2 prongs? Doesn't matter. The Stalkers blunk forward again. A real warp prism with the fight. He can go into the main. There goes the Ghost Academy. Just gonna fly right past the missile turrets. Outflanked by another one, though. Will be taken down. A fight on the open field, or recently opened field. The Vikings, there are 5 Colossi, though. A target-rich environment, but the Vikings unable to knock any of them down. Does he have vision of that Liberator? He needs the Colossi to provide vision. Incinerating the SCVs on the other side of the moat in the mineral line. And the Liberator's moving too far forward. ByuN, the cracks beginning to show, as Clem has been hammering him for like 15 minutes straight. And he may now have a 5th base of sorts, but it's costing him. Clem has lost 5,000 more resources. He's mined 8,000 more minerals and 4,000 more gas. It's 8 Nexi to 5 mining bases. The Dark Templar, finally! He's had him in reserve for this long. He blinks and it blocks the SCVs from repairing. Will eviscerate the planetary fortress, and without the blink, I don't think he would have gotten it. Blinking, if you don't blink, you'll miss it, as they say. Meanwhile, ByuN just playing defense, but every time he's just a little bit slower. with a few less units. It's trending towards Clem, and a double prism in the main will warp it enough to force ByuN to bring back the bio, making his starport units on the front lines more vulnerable. Fusion core taken down, which is not that important at this stage. He has all the upgrades from it, but the rest of the base still. And there's still some DTs slicing through. The double prism not dying as quickly as he'd like. The SCVs, there's just nothing here. Clem, the relentless barrage of Protoss. The DTs eviscerating another mineral line. ByuN down under 50 SCVs. The Marauders, they can't shoot what they can't see. Fighting on the open field. There's still one Colossus with this, and ByuN is strung out, and he's falling apart. Clem has dismantled the army. The patience, yet a firm, yet patient sort of style. And what's not to love about that? Constantly poking and prodding at the edges. ByuN on a mule-based stimulus check here. That's all he's got left as the income lead climbs further and further alongside the supply. Clem, just Stalkers, possibly the only fight he can lose at this stage. A battle probe to the front. He's mined out. Well, he hasn't even mined out. He's actually transferred probes to his outlying bases, which I kind of love. He's barely mining from the bases closer to his base, which don't think too hard about that. That actually makes a ton of sense, and almost nobody does that. Because which bases do you want to mine out quicker? The ones that your opponent could maybe contest and potentially mine from themselves. But it's just one of those little details where Clem, one of the few Protoss players to have a higher APM than the Terran, reaching near 4 digits at this stage. And GG! Clem takes 2 in a row and reaches match point as he seems to refine his strategy on something of a more favorable map. But this time losing only about 100 zealots, 100 star. The fact he's losing more stalkers, that's the difference compared to Hero style. Hero just throws rivers of zealots in and sees if he can erode the Terran. Whereas the Blink Stalkers are Clem's tool of choice. They're more costly, more risky, but also potentially more effective. So, Clem takes 2 in a row. But what? But that means we have at least one more game. I say, playing it very safe. Ooh, when we go into one of our new Team Liquid map contest maps, which is on right now. If you, this is from the Pigosaur's Cup, but make sure to check out Wardy over the next few weeks. And of course, I'll bring you the highlights, but one of our new Team Liquid map contest finalists, Avex's Blackrock, clearly inspired by the Warcraft version, and one of our most creative maps thus far. I was going to say convoluted, because there's multiple sets of rocks, rock towers, there's a whole bunch of vision blockers, and path constrainers. I'd be like, what does that even mean? There are multiple paths where units like Marines and Marauders can fit through, but larger units like Siege Tanks or your Mother definitely would struggle. So, especially in the most obvious ones. So I imagine there's going to be some games, even at the highest level, decided by some less than careful pathfinding. So we'll see. Wow, Clem checking for mostly NG Bay block SCV. Is that a scout? It is a scout. All right. Everybody looks around. Just one in gas. The most economical possible. And feels like he just refined. Partially the map being... So there's no ramp up to either the natural or the third base on Tourmaline. That was part of the reason it's so much easier. Maybe not so much, but significantly easier to keep up the aggression. I got Winter Madness, there's a ramp towards the natural, and there's technically a ramp / choke points into the third. It's a more platform kind of defensive style of map, which is why ByuN was... Oh, this is the cow map. I was told there was no cow level. I was lied to. There's so many cows, but you can only see them when a unit goes by them, but... See, no, those are sheep. I know the difference. Wake up, sheeple. Like and subscribe. There's a Marine just chilling. Vision of everything. If you're inside of the... Oh no, what have I done? If you're inside of the vision, obscuring trees, you can see out of them. Well, like you're in the forest. But if you're looking into the forest... there you go. Thank you for the demonstration. 3 command centers. So, both players very macro-oriented. Let's put it that way. We got double Croto for Clem. And on probes, to be clear. And 3 CC for ByuN. As I'm not actually sure if the rush distance is that much shorter. But, wow, he's just hiding his Marines in the in the trees. All right. Blink on the way. And the most standard fare here. Looks like a 2-gate, 3-gate expand? 3-gate. He's just going to take a third. Little does he know, but he might suspect that ByuN already has that third command center. So, a bit more economical for Clem, a lot more for ByuN. But we'll end up in a similar spot eventually. With 3 racks on the way, going for stim and potentially +1 right off the bat. Meanwhile, Clem with Blink in a robotics facility. And there's the +1 attack. Yeah, ByuN not locking himself into a pre-medevac timing. In fact, nobody locking themselves into a pre-anything timing at this point. It's all just economy. It's intimidating, all right, with so much distance to cover, so many trees, so many rocks, terrain very scary. Is something that somebody who doesn't know what they're saying would say. What? Well, a lot of very smart people in the comments say that I have the best words, so you can tell because they're in the YouTube comments. So they've already liked and subscribed, of course, which is the greatest indicator of intelligence. Take it from me. A very smart person, like I said, based on... I digress. Moving on. The observer spots everything. He'll kill it, but... Its watch has ended. He saw the starport timing. He sees the double upgrades on the tech labs. He even saw the 3rd command center. The only thing he missed, technically, is the engineering bay, but that's almost implied. So, Clem knows. He knows what he's dealing with. He knows what the threats are. And he knows he might be able to put on some pressure with Blink Stalkers. Gonna target the bunker. Takes it out. A second observer will potentially open up the main base. And ByuN is a little supply blocked for those first 2 medevacs, which is kind of a huge deal. And oh no, he's walked all the way down, which means there's some free time in the main. He just kills off some SCVs, a Marauder. Gets to the corner, and, well, I mean, okay. Definitely not as much damage as he could have gotten, but gets out before really suffering any in turn. Robotics Bay and Charge are in production, and an even quicker +1 this time around for Clem. Picking off the Marauders. But concussive shells is done, which means he tags a couple of the Stalkers, breaks their very weak and spindly knees, and is able to drive the rest back. ByuN with 55 SCVs. Oh. Those vision blockers. Without an observer, I'm quite aware that there could easily be an army just waiting for him there. He's about to spot, well, he knows it's coming across now. He's eliminated the places it could be, so he's going to fight it on the field. But without a Colossus, okay. All right, the Colossus just finished. This is a set of destructible rocks, by the way. So, could work towards either side. Technically, you can drop them on units. It's almost impossible to actually make that work, though, as the units get kind of pushed out of the way, unless they're, like, burrowed or something. Speaking of, there's a little bit of a push up there. Takes a look. Gives away the Observer. There's a scan. I think he wanted to kill the Observer, but instead he's going to die. At least most of those units in turn. The Widow Mine targets it. He actually sieged up the Observer to help out. Gives it extra vision, though it is revealed nowadays. Part of why ByuN did the scan. I think he spotted it there mid-fight. 69 probes for Clem. A nice start to the economy, but he's building 4 at a time with that 4th Nexus completed. Another Observer wandering, and he knows. Yeah, right? But just spotting the army in that general area informs Clem on the best course of action. Stalkers moving forward, trying to drag out the Widow Mine hits. Successful on 1 out of 2. Extended thermal lance on the way, another base. In quite a curious position. Not like the layout, just interesting the base is there. It comes to the map. Another one right down the center. Some quite exposed bases near the center of the map, but also some really tucked into the corner, but it looks like they only have 1 gas geyser. It's like more bases, but less resources per base. It's an interesting split here. The Widow Mines throughout the vision blockers actually going to have quite an effect, taking out Zealots and incidentally Stalkers. But the main base a bit vulnerable to the Warp Prism. And absolutely nothing back at home to defend as ByuN charges back, stims everything in a well-founded panic. As he realizes this could be an absolute disaster. The thing is, he just brought almost his entire army back home. He's left... he split some of it off, realizing that the main army of Clem is still a greater threat overall. Loses 7 SCVs. He cleans up the Zealots. But he's lost almost all semblance of map control yet again. And Clem has taken a 25 supply lead as Protoss, which is remarkably hard to do in the mid-game. How many robos? 2 robos. We're going up to double-digit gateways. Clem now 5 bases. And with a 6th Nexus on the way. ByuN still building that ideal Terran army, the one that can beat pretty much anything in the game, but with a big asterisk. The Marine Marauder Ghost Viking. You find the right spot and you can pretty much take out a Protoss army with nearly 0 losses. Now, Clem is also, of course, aware of that and has taken many, many steps to prevent it from happening. In Game 1, a couple times, ByuN was able to get those dream engagements, but Game 2, Clem wasn't playing the Bachelor anymore. The Vikings looking for an opportunity, but the Disruptor shot around the corner of the trees actually clipped some Marauders. But the Vikings finally find the angle. The Stalkers are in position to help deal with it. Oh no, the Disruptor had shot him in the legs! Oh, the rare misfire there out of Clem. But that means his own Colossus undercut by the Disruptor, the Bio Ball. Oh no! Oh, the greatest enemy of Clem. Clem himself. There's so many cows. I don't know. Why are there so many cows here? They're kind of actually getting in the way. Well, they don't really have collision, but they kind of do. The cows in the midst of all this, but without splash damage, they won't die so easily. But dare he move forward? Meanwhile, the rocks opened up. This is that strainer I was talking about, but easily chews through the rocks, and ByuN has the best opportunity he's had in quite a while. The Vikings hit the deck. There are more Colossi, 3 Colossi in production. The Vikings fighting on the ground, which is quite a commitment considering the situation. Another Colossus moves up. But those Vikings have been taken out by the charge lots. He just stims right through. He's tearing through everything. Another Colossus shows up. EMP wipes away the shields. The Viking already working on it. There's no anti-air. The army thinning out, but he has to pull the probes. And the Viking, that last shot, not quite enough. 4 HP on the Colossus. And ByuN is eventually driven back, though Clem was forced to pull probes in order to force him there. It's like SCVs all over the place. Is there a charge lot counter or something? No SCVs died, so that seems unlikely. ByuN making the choice to drop the Vikings may have helped maintain the momentum for the attack, but also means he has to reset the Viking count, and Clem is building multiple Colossi simultaneously, so maybe a bit premature. Though ByuN clearly wanted to win on that attack. It wasn't quite enough. He now has a 4th base. Clem has 7, which is not the disparity. It even, especially after losing those probes and a round of mules is dropped, ByuN actually takes a slight income lead. The Mule Mountain will once again be thrust up from the income gap. But another group of charge lots right down the center. The most vulnerable location. There's not even a bunker there. Another to the 4th base, but the planetary will backstop all this. He wipes out the charge lots. The main army is headed due north. It is in the top left corner base. Quite an effort to maneuver the army around the map with the massive blockers down the center. With the grunts looking on. Look what it takes to mimic a fraction of our power. Loktar go. The scan still, and once again, here we are with ByuN and Clem both at 200 supply. Clem significantly less of a bank advantage here, especially now. A whole bunch of probes vulnerable. Clearly Clem, so you can see the experience on the map. I think that's a big part of this. Clem not as confident in how he's maneuvering around because I doubt he's played this map more than maybe like 3 times. As only like a week before this tournament have we really started using it in some of the community tournaments. So Clem struggling to keep up with some of ByuN's maneuvers here. Whereas ByuN, with less bases to defend, is having a slightly easier time though. On the open field now, who's flanking who? Clearly, Clem has the advantage when it comes to the near 360-degree surround. But ByuN chews through one flank of this, and there's another drop. He just completely cancels the rebuilt Nexus. They'll expect one of us in the wreckage, brother. I'm allergic to sheep. I don't... What? Awkward. Actually finds the base. The abandoned Marauder will spot the Nexus. The army's in position. The Disruptors join in. That one Marauder eviscerated, but the Disruptor shots, he pops one. Another one right down the center. A third one is taken out. The Vikings will knock down the Colossi. And the Stalkers will pick off a few behind. Warps and around. That triple drop is still in position, but a lot of damage done to the medevacs. And there's not much of a standing army on the field. The rest of the army's rallied across. ByuN in an awkward position, to say the least. Long-distance mining, and then giving away this base because of said long-distance mining. He doesn't want to give away the army. He's just flying off to the next map. There's a beautiful lagoon over here. Right alongside the Exploder-rated command center. And it feels like Clem has gathered momentum. He's managed to pick off several groups of units. Oh, no. It's a disaster. 30 supply in medevacs obliterated. Just wanders in to the Stalkers and the Zealots. ByuN now suffering from a little bit of those pathfinding issues, clearly. Now, the Colossus who lived, the Disruptors ward away. The Bio army trying to chase. It's just gateway units, which do almost nothing to 3-3 Bio with medevacs above. He needs the robotics facility. He needs the Disruptors and the Colossi to have any hope of challenging them without an obscene numbers difference. We're talking like 60 supply to 30 is what you need against the Bio. without disruptors, without Colossi. But he has them on the open field. EMPs the Raptors, pops a couple, knocks out the Colossus. One last shot right down the center, softens up the Ghosts. Another shot will ward away. A wave of Stalkers is warped in. Another disruptor shot follows through. More Ghosts softened up, but there's no more splash damage. There was a force field somewhat. Did he just whip out a casual desk force field there? And a lot of the concave of Stalkers. He has 39 Stalkers and 2 disruptors. 3-3-1 on the Oh, he blinks into his own disruptor shot. Falls on his own grenade. But still, Clem is shoving ByuN back. He doesn't quite have that army supply. I said 60 to 30. It feels like it's like 80 to 30 here now. With... Oh, no. That's a huge mistake. Where are the medevacs going? He boosts the medevacs into the mineral line for some reason. Oh, he was trying to chase down. ByuN is actually expanded to the 3 o'clock. Clem is maxed out. He's warping a single zealot. And ByuN is scrambling across the map. ByuN has so many Clem has so many units. His Stalkers are taking up a significant percentage of the screen. The Colossi trundling up. And ByuN struggling to respond to the ever-changing unit composition. It's not changing much, but it's changing enough. The Vikings will knock down maybe one Colossus, sorry. But he's in such a disgusting choke point. And suddenly, ByuN, for some reason, he thought he could take that fight. Clem disabuses him of that notion and just incinerates wave after wave of bio. I don't know what ByuN was thinking, but now a lot of his units not thinking at all. ByuN, he loses 7 Ghosts, 5 Vikings, a whole bunch of Marauders. And Clem still so mobile across the field. The fact that he's just not even bothering with charge lots. He has 0 Zealots. It's pure Stalker Colossus. I mean, Disruptors and Colossus somewhat interchangeable depending on how many Vikings. But it's so interesting he's using Stalkers instead of the charge lots here, which are so much more costly again, but they seem to be getting the value he needs, whereas charge lots they're a sledgehammer, whereas Stalkers are more of a broadsword as he cleaves armies apart, trying to find that critical blow. But that is so many. He's got a medevacs for all policy here. Meanwhile, another 20... How are there still... He has 42 Stalkers, but is that the answer to everything? Or is it just potentially his demise? ByuN drives straight into 2 Gs. So, even though he had the army to maybe win this fight, he was clearly losing the war. The reinforcements completely cut off. There's still several Colossi. The decentralized production. He's warping it, and you see 10 Stalkers warp in. ByuN taps out. And that brings us to our anti-spoiler game of Clem versus Hero. Yes, I wasn't sure how it ended, but it was pretty clear that Clem getting more and more confidence. I think the only kind of stopping block was Clem's inexperience with that map. Now, there's a bit of a twist on this one, though. And I really wanted to show it off, but there's no way I was going to actually... make it its own video, because introducing our Protoss player in the blue. It's Team Liquid's Clem. And our Protoss player in the red. The one who effectively caused Clem to switch to Protoss. Maybe permanently. The Smiling Assassin. It's Hero. Yes. This is the finals, not of the same tournament, but of one, I think, the same week, a Kung Fu Cup. Where Clem, here's the storyline. He lost as Terran once to Hero. And then he played Protoss the rest of the series. And I'll just tell you, it wasn't a short one, so... Clem, apparently, in some cases at least, would rather play Protoss versus Protoss than Terran versus Protoss. I guess there's something to be said about losing in 5 minutes as opposed to 35. But... no. So, fun fact, Clem is ranked #1 on the European ladder as Protoss. It is by no means a fluke or a phase. It isn't just like that one-off, like when Scarlet switched to Protoss and did a big charge lot all-in to beat DRG in MLG 2013, as sick as that was. Yeah, what a moment. But Clem, the first player, I think in StarCraft 2 history, too. I originally thought, alongside some tournament organizers, were trying to draw up like a new rule book for players just start switching races. Like if Hero decided to play Zerg for some reason against Protoss, I don't know why he'd put himself through that, but what are we gonna do if players switch races based on the race of their opponent regularly? But so far, after over a year of Clem, even in the World Cup, playing Protoss against Terran, no one else has committed to such an action. We've still had occasional, seems like it's always Protoss for some reason, but occasional players switching their race. Mostly it seems out of spite, but only Clem has managed to find continued and regular success. And now we move into the mental health crisis of Protoss versus Protoss. Hero has built a robo. Clem has also built a robo. Both robos are close to Clem's base. Of course, wait, did he spot the pylon? Clem could count pylons. All right, I can count it. 2. He walks up, and he didn't know this was here, but he knew that Hero did not have a second pylon in his base on top. He should have had the tech. Meanwhile, hard walls off. Hero, wait, these are Heroes. That's Hero's pylon. He's gonna use that. He can cancel, and he lets his own adepts in. The Immortal is depowered. Hero just using the pylon block to get his adepts into Clem's base. He's killed 4 probes, but now the robo has been delayed. But here come 2 more stalkers. The probes are gonna get involved. The pylon is delayed. There's probes. The probes are actively involved in this fight. He takes out the stalker, and, well, 2 pylons. Hero just building pylons all over the place. They said construct additional pylons, and they never said stop. As Hero, not 1, not 2, but 3 more pylons on the way. Here come some stalkers as well. And is Warp Gate done? Yes, technically. He's just going to target the Robo, which is actually easier than killing 3 pylons. He's 1 volley away, but the Immortal comes out just in time. He's blasting through. He's building a second Immortal, trying to keep the issue going. The Immortal does terrible, terrible damage to Stalkers. He's warping another Stalker, but he's going to target the Robo. He may just be able to take it out, making this very awkward because now Hero has 3 pylons just chilling in the middle of the map doing nothing. Meanwhile, another Immortal is on the way. Wait, no, that's Clem's Immortal. Here comes the All right, so Clem is up 8. So he has a Robo. Hero does not. Hero just built a Stargate, which technically counters a Robo. Hero's going to lose 3 pylons. Hero has built like 10 pylons so far in this game. Now, he's lost 4. He currently has a grand total of 3 on the map. So... No, wait, there were also stalkers on the other... Wait, oh, well, okay. So Clem just wins, right? I shouldn't be so hasty. Hero has 1 sentry at home, which is enough to actually stop Clem from doing any damage, because Clem has no way to get up that ramp if the sentries land the force field. In fact, it could be a liability. There's a warp prism on the way. There's still a probe at the wall. Hero's going to try the Adept Shade again. There's a Void Ray in production, because of course there is. The Adepts will try to chew their way through. Metaphorically, of course. He's not even going to bother going up the ramp. Meanwhile, the Stalkers will shade away. The Adepts will shade away. The Warp Prism will provide high ground vision. Makes this a lot more interesting. There's the Force Field on both sides. Juggles back. Void Ray is not quite done. Meanwhile, juggling the Immortals in... Which, there's 3 shield batteries here. And the Void Ray actually is a big problem. And he's targeting the Prism. And the shield batteries are helping so much. Clem definitely underestimating the shield batteries. And an Adept gets in. He kills 2 more probes. Hero now has the worker lead. He's getting +1 air weapons. What? Why? For his 1 Void Ray, You're allowed to build more than one. It's not a hero unit. Well, technically. And air weapons also doesn't work for oracles. Is that a misclick? How do you misclick +1 air? Just hero things. I don't... A hallucin... No, he does not believe you. That is not real. Like, he's trying to sell it. There's no way he has a robo. Clem just does not even... He saw it, and there's no way. He just completely, immediately knew it was a fake. Like, what is that? Okay, it was a mistake on +1 air weapons, or it was a tactical ruse. So another pylon's gonna go down, which depowers the cyber core, which doesn't actually do anything. The hallucinated warp prism, but I think he just had stalkers. Well, at some point the Clem is expanding. Hero, that Void Ray is still the most important unit in the game. Hero has been supply blocked for nearly a full chrono boost. There's a stasis in the midst of the base. It will actually get a huge... It's the majority of the probes. And the stasis will block the stalkers from chasing. Because of course it does. And Clem's looking for hidden bases because surely Hero does not have a first base. Hero is not stuck on one base. And Hero says, of course I'm stuck on one base. And don't call me surely. Another Void Ray's on the way. The Warp Prism... helping with the vision and the force fields, trapping one stalker. But now there's 2 Void Rays against 3 stalkers, which is a winning proposition. Where did the Oracle go? Oh, it's home. There and back again. What a story. A Revelation could take out that Observer. I think he just wants to leave it. So the threat of force fields is a big one. He's going to take out the Observer, which now he requires... Wait, there's not enough energy for another force field. He's going to come down the ramp. He can see that. He has the Revelation. He knows. There's not enough energy. If you're going to go, it's now, Hero. Literally 5 seconds away. And there we go. The Void Ray. Soft lock. And picks up one of the Immortals. The Phoenix lights up the Void Rays. And the Phoenix was not taken down, which means that Immortal's a free kill. He's gonna chase it down. The Oracle's back for another stasis. Clem not responding, just in time. And this time just 1 unit. But Hero has somehow taken the supply lead. And now he's gonna build a real Warp Prism. Clem either made the mistake or took the opportunity to expand. And really it's about the results that are going to decide which one it is. Meanwhile, well, the Immortal is lifted. Put right back down, and then put in the Prism. It's all over the place, everywhere except the ground. Another Immortal. What a save out of Clem. Beautiful micro, but here come the Void Rays. They charge up yet again. There's 2 Observers here, which is... probably was a bit optimistic out of Clem. He's lost so much off of that. The army supply. Hero's still on 22 probes. These 2 Void Rays are the most important part of the game right now. He's going to try to pick off the Prism. Big hit. Blinks to the side. He has Blink, by the way. And now Hero learns that in the worst possible way. The Oracle's in the main. He's going to try another Stasis. Clem responds in time. But this one, well, hits a few probes. Still in an awkward position. But Hero's running out of time to get the damage done. The Blink Stalkers are... Well, they're behind him right now. The shield batteries are completed. The Warp Prism was taken out. The Blink Stalkers are going to try to trade. He picks off, I don't know, it was so clean. Was it an Adept or the Sentry? The Void Rays. The Hero is long distance mining and rallying Immortals across the map. But Clem has 2 bases. Hero has navigated the entirety of the tech tree on 1 base. Clem has slowly but surely dismantled it. Though... that Immortal might die, but so do all the Stalkers. Pretty much. The armies are out in the middle of the map. Clem continues thinking he has a... Well, there are 2 Void Rays out on their own. Which is not a... He lights up the Void Rays. It might actually kill the Prism. But he lost the 2 Hero Void Rays in every sense of the term. Both players expanding. Though, different context for both of them. Now Hero has a bunch of adepts, because of course he does. There's nothing to stop them from getting into the main as well, though he may just cancel. He gets into the main. Hero's sending the army across the map. There's also Clem's 2 Immortals in the most vulnerable position. A stasis! A stasis blocks the Stalkers! The best case scenario! And Hero! He's done it again! Oh! He goes for the pylon. It's being re-shielded. He didn't force field the ramp, and I think Blink would have made the difference anyways. The stasis on the Stalkers is such a huge deal. He's out of range of the shield batteries with the sentries. I spoke too soon. Meanwhile, that's a hallucinated Immortal. Winter madness, indeed. The shield battery. You're not locked in here with me. End of sentence. And Clem blinks out. Meanwhile, Clem finally wrangles the rest of the units. And I think he's done it. After 12 minutes, Hero finally finishes his second Nexus and proceeds to finally lose the game. Right? At some point, it can't go on. There's nothing. He blunks forward. He's right on top of the Immortal, trying to target fire. Hero, the force fields. And there is a chance that the Immortal actually holds through all this. He blunks on top. Okay, that's enough. He's powering through the shield batteries. And Clem. Hero somehow won and lost the game 4 times. But Clem turns the tide, and as Protoss defeats the #1 Protoss. Well, certainly something. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Maybe I need to cast that full series. We'll see. But thank you for watching. I hope it made your day a little bit better. If you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon, YouTube membership. But if you're liking and subscribing, it's still free, at least for now. Oh, and thank you to our Mule Tier patrons bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jacob Devendor, Kate, Mario Suit. And if you haven't yet checked out this video, get me picked out just for you. It'd be awesome if you could do so. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.